I looked up into the sky, and there I saw my doom, lithesome yet dread. What creatures were these? How many tortures would I endure before peace was mine? 1,000 wretched forms united only by a hatred that never ends. Malign and savage to the last, they brim with bitterness for the works of man.
Hell yeah. That's a Beastman specific quote.
Beastmen are here!
I said, yeah. I'm a little shook, honestly, because it's come out of nowhere. I was expecting them soon. I don't know that I was expecting them this soon. I mean, obviously, the release window, the word on the street is that they missed their initial release window. For whichever reason, who could say what that reason would be? But they have been shoehorned in between Wood Elves and Cathay, which I think we have heard rumoured. Cathay's NDA is going to lift on the 5th of June, if I'm correct in thinking. That or was it the 20th July? I'd have to double check that one. But we have seen some dates, so it's coming much sooner than expected, which is obviously exciting. We've got a lot of stuff to go through. A lot has happened in the last 2 weeks since you've been on. Yeah, that you were on like prior to Wood Elf Week, right? I think.
Yes. We did the Saffron Slam wrap up.
Yeah.
Tickets are available for end of July. And then you did 7 videos in a row for Wood Elf Week.
Hell yeah.
And then here we are back.
Yeah, of course. That was only last week. It all blends together a little bit when I'm doing so many videos. So what happened as well was I got to the end of Wood Elf Week, and because have we even got the models out yet? I think we're still waiting for models to be released, or like they're out for pre-order, but I don't think they're out for actual sale yet, if I'm remembering correctly. So that's interesting. Yeah, that they've literally announced them before we've seen the actual models on the shelves. So yeah, but what happened was I did Wood Elf Week, and I had a video with Jack Allen that I'd recorded. I think we'd recorded it. Yeah, the Skaven interview. He's the only actual legacy Skaven player to have won a GT. Here's the thing: 2 Renegade Skaven players came first and second at a very small event. It was a 10-player event, but the weekend after we filmed, they got some decent placings.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't, it was the Renegades pack. It was a small event, but still, it was a little bit of a shame that we couldn't have a look at their lists and talk about them at the time. But yeah, so I put that video up at, I think it was about 2 o'clock on Sunday. Then I blinked and I was like, oh, wait, hold on. Beastmen have come out. I need to... time to record something for that. Yeah, no rest for the wicked. And I've obviously done something wrong because I don't want to say working like a dog, but working a reasonable amount. That's the trade-off there. Jay says...
Yeah, because I guess you obviously did Wood Elf Week with the Codex. So I'm in 40k mode because I'm running a 40k event this weekend. The Arcane Journal, you did it when it was in PDF form, and yes. I think obviously it's coming out either this weekend. But obviously, I'm assuming at some point, some good person on the internet is going to create a PDF form of the Beastmen Arcane Journal for general online consumption at some point. So I guess that's the moment you have to start Beastmen Week.
Well, now I don't know for certain, but if we look at history, there is a pretty reasonable chance that it leaks on Thursday. Either Thursday or Friday. So, yeah, that's...
They're moving in the distance. They're coming.
It's not even the distance. It's just around the corner. I'm actually pretty excited to get my horns into it. There's a lot of fun stuff in there that I'm really looking forward to putting on the table. So, looking forwards to that. Jay said nothing happened for 2 months. Now everything is happening in 2 weeks. Games Workshop is wacky. Yep, they are. I don't disagree. This time, I don't think it's their fault. I think it's literally due to there was a week when nothing went up because I'm going to say it's because of the tariffs. Because if you look at the timing, everything going into America was from China was at 195% tariffs or even more. And Games Workshop just went, you know what? Despite being a company that likes making money, this week we're just going to let you breathe. We're not going to ask your wallets for any money this week. Which, if you look at the internal calendar, I don't think there's ever going to be that planned. I think there's always going to be something spread out. So that is... This time I don't think it's their fault, but it is still funny. Callum says Beastman Fortnite. Maybe not.
Run you into the ground. Make videos until you can't breathe anymore.
Well, you know what? It's fantastic for the channel when it happens.
Yeah.
So there's I put a screenshot up in, I think it was in the VIP section, where I go, so this is where I normally am, and then when there's a week full of videos where everyone wants to see, it's like, oh, this is where I am. So it's going to be pretty wild between this, then Beastman, then Cathay. I think going to hit 5k sooner than expected. So I've got to work out some interesting plans for that, but I've got plans. I just need to put them into action. We've also got
George as well. You create lots of work for our multilingual listeners as well. Because I saw on Discord, in the Close Order Discord, Joe Liu, who's the guy we spoke about previously from Beijing. He translates all of your videos into Chinese.
Does he really?
And then posts them up somewhere in Beijing so that people that obviously don't speak English can
watch
incredible.
I need to have a word with him. No, that sounds ominous. That's amazing. That's super cool.
Doing it out of love, don't worry.
Yeah, I have no issue with that. That's really cool. I need to shoot him a message. I missed that. I didn't realize that was a thing. Maybe have to do some, like, a video, chat with him or something like that. But we'll another thing for me to line up in the future. Close Order goes to China. That's in the future, perhaps. Who else we got?
I'm joining you for that trip. That'll be so much fun. I've always wanted to
go. Jordan's here. The rest of the Skaven players should lay off the Warpstone Rocks. Fair. And also hope Renegade Skaven get big showings in tourneys. We'll see. They're interesting, but I don't know if they're tournament winners as it stands. Chris is here. Good to see you, Chris. Chris, who I was talking to in chat on Friday, and I was like, Chris Frozen, I swear I recognise that name. I can't place it. And I think I might recognise it from Warhammer World back in the day, because I used to do in 8th edition a number of Throne of Skulls. But turns out also another Warhammer and content creator YouTuber who's been doing it for longer than me and does some really lovely painting stuff. So I've had some of his videos on today in the background. Nice to listen to. That's honestly, I don't listen to much competitive stuff because I think about it so much that I'm like, I want to turn my brain off a little bit, and I like listening to the other side of things. So yeah, good to have you, Chris. Glad to see you.
They're all incompetent compared to you, obviously.
I would never say that out loud on a recorded broadcast. It's also not true. There are plenty of people doing really great stuff, and any chance I get, I think I've made it. I've done well, I think, at crediting people who I have heard things from and taken ideas from, including mostly, I want to say, God, my brain's just gone blank. My favourite, Pash, there we go, Pash. Although he still continues to mildly shit talk me on Warhammer Discords. I see you, Pash. I see the comments that you put up about me. The first time I met him in person, I was like, so you're talking shit? And he was like, when? Which one? Which I thought was hilarious. Yeah. Anthony's here. How's it going, Anthony? Midlife Dice here as well. Good to have you. Papa Wheatley, good evening, Ed and Lewis from Noon, USA. Yeah, it's always appreciated when we see people chiming in from across the pond. I know Midlife Dice is Canada as well, I believe. So good to have you here on
contingent
in the middle of the day. Yeah, we are doing well. Gone international. Chris says defo a collab a list soon. Yeah, we'll get on that. And Anthony says, close order. Imagine when Cathay is launched, China's a big market. Hope Warhammer gets more exposure in Asia. It's definitely going to. It really, it has to, I think, given just the way things are panning out at the moment and the burgeoning interest.
Yeah, very much anecdotally, but I know when I go to the local club here, there are 40k players that have never previously shown any interest in Old World. Are looking at Cafe going, these are really cool.
Yeah. That's we're definitely going to see, like, we're going to pick up the second half of the 40k players. The first half came around last year, and then the second half are coming around this year. Just got a donation there. Thank you to Nako. The main question: will you moo or bar? So I can't moo. Just I can't make the sound, but I can do a pretty good sheep impression. So I guess I'll be charging into battle going, meh, which is
There should have been a warning.
Usually,
headphones Just had their ears blown out.
Yeah, usually good enough to get the attention of the local sheep when I going for a hike around a field or something like that. Jordan says, well, you do claim Welsh heritage. I'm a little bit Welsh. Not enough to actually seriously claim Welsh heritage. I think I'm an 8th Welsh, but...
you use enough dragons to be Welsh, that's for sure.
And my high elves are painted Welsh. I got around it by saying they're in the Calador colours. I'm not painting my high elves, which are potentially going to go with me internationally for England in Welsh colours. And I was like, yes, Calador, that's how we're doing it. Really hoping for the Centaurs to be great. Yeah, Centaurs being good would be nice. Like, I dislike how they are set up at the moment, and they lose control 1/3 of the time. Don't love that for us. Yeah. Pratt's here. Peter Pratt from Northern Ireland. Glad to have you, Peter. Hope you're doing well. Hope it's a little bit nicer than it is here in sunny Nottingham, and by that I mean miserably rainy Nottingham. I sold some old Warhammer stuff, some old 40k stuff, and a lovely chap who is a third-party reseller messaged me and scooped them up pretty quickly, and we had a chat because I said, I did a quick, check on your face. I sold it through Facebook Marketplace. I was like, I did a quick snoop to make sure you weren't going to kill me. And I was like, I saw that you had, a Warhammer reselling business. And he was like, yes, no, I'll be honest. I was like, buddy, no, I'm very pleased about this. You're way less likely to try and scam me because you've got a reputable storefront. So I've got an inline there if I've got any old stuff that I want to sell at a reasonable value, which was cool. But also, the context of that is I was stood outside in the rain for 10 minutes. All the models were wrapped up in bin bags because I was like, I can't take these out and just let them get soaking.
No, definitely not. Apparently I'm coming quite quiet.
Oh, apologies. Let me turn you up there. That should help.
Give me a boost.
Give you a boost.
To be heard loud and clear.
Charlie's here from New Jersey. Hell yeah. Another American. Good to have you, Charlie. Hope you're doing well. Where 40k belongs in the bin. It was in a bin bag, to be clear. If I put it in a bin, I wouldn't have got any money from it. But I did manage to shift my old orcs.
I think I've got an odd number of players this weekend, so I'm very much looking at getting my Imperial Knights out this weekend for some 40k action. I'm very much looking forward to that. Actually, I haven't played in ages.
Yeah, well, I mean, so whether or not we, boo at the 40k players or not, I think Knights are one of the more fun ways to play 40k. If you're not interested in winning and you're happy to just turn your brain off a little bit and push big models around the table, which really speaks to me as a player. I love doing that.
Yeah, something with a massive flamethrower. Can't go wrong.
Yeah.
That's very much my vibe for my Imperial Knights.
Oh, there was a hot minute when the flamethrower was good back in, I want to say, at one point in 8th edition. It was
8th edition,
yeah,
we did all right.
Yeah.
Well, it was never good, but I managed to make it work.
It was good enough that you could be like, oh, what if we use this? Anyway, 40k. Who wants to talk about 40k? Let's talk about your thoughts about Wood Elves. We'll start chronologically. We'll start off there.
Yes, so that we're in the new we're in the new order, not the original order they wanted it to release.
Yes.
So, the one thing I've picked up on the Wood Elves is I love the kindreds.
Yes.
I really enjoyed your video where you were trying out lots of different character combinations, the Law of the Bear or whatever it's called, the Kindred of the Bear.
Yeah.
Very much enjoyed that. The way you can just, frustratingly, you can only put it on those two different characters. You can't put it across the whole suite of characters, which is annoying. And it doesn't really go on units in the same way that perhaps like the Empire Knight versions, where they can put on units of cavalry.
Sure.
But the fact
makes sense
there,
thematically, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, but being able to toy with those character layouts is so much fun. I mean, you picked up on a couple of combos that look quite tasty, but I think for a Wood Elf player that knows that faction well, I'm sure there's some combinations in there that can be particularly nasty, which I think they'll start drawing out over time as that book gets in front of people's eyes and they start playing it.
Yeah,
so I thought that was a really cool part of it.
The character combinations are so deep. There is so much you can do in that book. Yeah. You can do some really wild stuff. The fact that you've got kindreds and spites and magic items, and while spites are not the deepest pool, but they do have a couple of real hitters in there. But then you've got enough kindreds. I think, is it 10? I think it's 5 of each. It's either 8 or 10, something like that. And then you've got all of the magic items, which is now main book, Wood Elf, Forces of Fantasy, Wood Elf Arcane Journal. There's a lot of choice in there. Like, I haven't even played around with a BSB yet. Like, a T5 BSB is just kind of cool. It's not quite as tanky as a chariot, but for wood elves, that's pretty damn tanky. So I'm pretty interested to play around with that one, I think.
Yeah, and you think that just a number of possible combinations that can sit in amongst that. There's going to be an item in somewhere in that list that actually combos really, really well with one of those kindreds.
Yes.
And no one's just thought of it yet, and that'll pop up at some point, and they'll be like, "Oh wow, look at that!" Which is the best thing about these books, isn't it? Just to open up the faction to different versions of being played. And I don't know that I don't think either of the armies of infamy are going to be that much better than Grand Army.
Right now, no.
So I'm not. But I'm not sure it's like going to be. It's not going to like change the meta.
Sure.
Which maybe some people wanted, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that's absolutely fine. Do you think there's one of those armies of infamy that might be particularly strong in a competitive setting then?
Well, I don't really know what we're getting in terms of the FAQ. There's whispers on all fronts, but it's hard to say specifically what we're getting. But the pervading theme is that, infantry's going to be better and dragons are going to be worse. I don't massively rate the Wood Elf Dragon. I think it falls over to a lot of stuff in the meta at the moment. So if we see some of those issues go away, and if we see dragons stop being as much of a necessity for the armies that lean on them, even though I don't necessarily think that they're sort of amazing, it's just like high elves. I don't know where else you go to than a dragon. It's hard to build around without them. But maybe the melee, the infantry detachment with loads of melee buffs, maybe that has some legs. You can do some interesting stuff with Forest Spirits. I really like Forest Spirits. I wish they'd put more stuff in there to buff them up, but I think even without that, there is still some vaguely interesting stuff you can do with Forest Spirits, mostly because there's now kindreds where you can join the Forest Spirits instead of, just not being able to do anything with them. And then also the new lore, I think, is interesting, although I guess that doesn't necessarily buff them up too much. I'm kind of still on the fence about what I think the best way to play the Forest Spirits brick, like a unit of treekin, is, but I'm sure there's going to be some really fun stuff in there.
Yeah, you're quite hard to get off battle magic, really, aren't you?
yeah. That's I'm a huge fan of battle magic. It's just objectively so good. Pillar of Fire just does so much work up until they nerf it. God, I hope they nerf it.
Yeah,
it's nerfing me because I play dragons and Pillar of Fire. That is my play style, and those are the things that are rumored to be going away.
Is swinging for your head right now,
and I'm super okay with that. Like I've said for ages, like there's a lot of stuff that I want to be adjusted in the meta, like TMP, but I don't want it to be adjusted without also hitting the big stuff. So that's where we're at. Chris says, what would you put the BSB on, Eagle? I think Stag, just a T5 Stag on the bear upgrade is really nice. Hass of Flavor says BSB is a trap unless you're undead CMV. So generally yes, but I like the tanky BSB if you have it on something that hits relatively hard and is tanky and can go into a flank for additional combat res. So putting it on a Stag with like a 2-up save or a 3-up save and a 5-up ward, some combination of rules there to get it to a reasonably tanky level with, toughness 5. It's not immediately falling over. You can charge it in with, your Lord if you need to challenge out, so that the Lord with the Ogre Blade doesn't get stuck in combat. There's a lot of stuff that you can play around with. So I think that's an interesting piece to build around there.
It's a good point in general, because even with the undead BSBs, they are vulnerable just to getting hit and just knocked out, even without being in the challenge. They can just fall over.
Yeah.
And it feels like the undead ones, at least in vampire counts, are pretty essential because they just make everything else just work more efficiently. So you can give up that 100 victory points quite quickly with just someone charging you and having a half decent melee combatant in base to base and direct all their attacks against you. It can just happen.
Yeah.
And I guess potentially in some respects the vampire count one can be a little bit better defended because it has killing blow built in, so you can't just put a casual character into there because there's a risk you might just roll that 6 and just obliterate whatever it is. But
it also sits in a nigh unkillable unit and can be healed up if it takes splash damage, so it's a pain in the ass.
Yes, but it only has 2 wounds, and it can just get, if it just hit, it gets just a Bretonian lance hit it and just kill it.
Yeah.
It's that weak. So I think for wood elves and things like that, it definitely probably is the case because they don't necessarily sit within unkillable blocks of infantry at the moment, do they?
Sure, but I think it's the Stag character that has me interested because you can use it as like that pseudo tanky chariot BSB. It's not as tanky, but you're wood elves, so you're never going to be as tanky is the thinking. What rules limit which character mount can go with which units? Good question, Chris. So basically, as long as there is no rule stopping you, you can just join a mount to anything. If it's a monster, you can't join units. If you're trying to join monstrous infantry or monstrous cavalry, you can only join if you are also monstrous infantry and cavalry, because there's a clumsy rule. But it doesn't go the other way, so you can put monstrous cavalry inside regular cavalry, so you can have a unicorn or a stag inside regular cavalry. But other than that, it's as long as you're not in skirmish, there's not much governing you. If you're in skirmish, you have to be the same unit type. So you have to be light cav to light cav to also go in a skirmish unit. So if you wanted to put a stag in with some glade riders, they'd have to go in open order.
But you couldn't put a stag in with, like, the Eternal Guard, for example, in close order formation.
You could? Yeah.
You can? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was just chariots that could do that.
No. Mounts can go in. So, like, for Empire, you might see the Demigryph characters going into a block of state troops because it makes the character reasonably tanky,
Right.
adds a little bit of damage as well. Speaking of Bretts, if dragons and pillars get nerfed, you know what doesn't? Pegs. No, surely Pegasus Knights get nerfed.
The bat's coming for them as well, don't worry about that.
No, they're horses, Pegasus, they're not bats. That's undead you're thinking of. And what if we get to see some more special features? That'd be cool. That's more of like a tournament rules pack thing. So that's something that can be addressed without sort of the Games Workshop balance, which is decent.
I mean, I have been playing around with Saffron events, tickets available end of July. Saffron events having more garrisonable structures and things like that. They use effectively the special feature rules for garrisoning in the buildings and things like that. I take some of the leadership debuffs and stuff away, but
Sure.
I'm finding that some armies are using them quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, I think because infantry aren't necessarily where they're at yet, or where they should be yet, I'm not seeing units kind of take them up as a defensive position or anything like that yet. So I would like to see that kind of be more played around with or become more a viable option, really.
Sure.
They've got lots of boards of them sitting on there, and sometimes people effectively just treat them as impassable terrain and just move around them, or they'll just put like a block of 10 peasant archers or something in there, which, I mean, it obviously protects the peasants, I suppose, for giving them up easy points, but it's interesting.
Aguma says, make infantry great again. Agreed. I'd love to be running around with swordmasters specifically. Swordmasters would be very cool. Although, if it is infantry good, we might see more, for high elves, obviously thinking as a high elf player, we might see more focus on the trace detachment because they have core special infantry, which is obviously solid. This is a good interlude to say that if you are watching the stream and you haven't already, give us a like, a thumbs up. Always appreciate that. Your comments, your thumbs up, all of those things do help us get seen, picked up by the algorithm, seen by more people. You know the drill. Jordan says make it a 1.5 and not an FAQ. Yeah. That would be cool. I'd love to see that. That'd be absolutely fantastic. And we're also going to take this in. Oh.
I was going to say, do you think they do that as a big book release, or
no? They could do that as like an FAQ alongside some sort of other printed release, but we'll see how that goes. We're also going to take this interlude to do something that I've been asked to do, and that is to plug the Open Order Summer Sesh. This is a Warhol league, a very flexible, very casual Warhol league, although there are some killers playing with some good lists, and it is not being run by myself. It has been run by Jordan and it has been run by Callum. Jordan G and more Beastmen content, or more Robot Wars content, whichever version you've seen floating around on the Discord. They are running it. There is a rules pack on the Discord. There is an Open Order Summer Sesh banter channel. There's one for list submission. It is only for people who are members of the channel. I have nothing to do with it other than a very small amount of admin where I will create channels and stuff for them, but they are running it, and it's going to be 2 games per month. So if you're interested and you are a channel member already, or if you want to support, become a channel member to play in those, there will be 2 games a month played on Warhol, not through a strict time. I think you've got all month to organise both games, and you can play those. There's going to be some interesting lists. I'm going to play some fun stuff. I think I want to play like a Forest Spirit list, I think, first of all. And you are able to change your list, I think, once a month. Ooh, pardon me. Got the hiccups there.
Play 2 games, see how it goes.
It's going to be cool.
Change it up.
Yeah. Big fan of that. Tanoka says, if I didn't have to get my wisdom teeth pulled next month, I'd be eager to buy Beastmen releases. I thought for a second you were like, oh, I'm getting my teeth pulled, I can't look at rules. And I was like, wait, how does that work? But then I understood, unfortunately, the costs of, private health systems. Once a month, join whenever you want. Yes, that's the other thing I should mention as well. Good pointing out there. It's going to be run for 3 months, so 6 games. But if you miss the first month, or you only want to play for a month or 2 months, you can jump in, jump out. Just let the organisers know before the end of the month, and they can make that happen for you. So, should be good then. Because it's 2 games a month as well, I think there's no issue with odd numbers, I believe. Or worst case scenario, I guess one of them will play some filler games as well. Make that one work.
I don't know if they're running it on BCP or whether they're using something inbuilt in Warhol, but I know with BCP you can very easily move things around. So I
don't even think it's going to be that level of organised, and I don't mean organised in a negative way. I think it's literally I think it's probably just going to be a spreadsheet where they just go, you know what, we've only got a handful of 10, 15 people, something like that. Easy to just line up some individual games and go from there. But I think one of them's probably got some affinity for spreadsheets in there. So, good stuff. And yes, so if you want to take part, it is on the Close Order Discord linked down below. All right. So we talked about Wood Elves a little bit. We are kind of having to do the hits as we go through because unfortunately, or fortunately, there's a lot to talk about. Can't believe you just haven't been here for 2 weeks on this regular schedule that we set ourselves. Yeah. So we've talked about Wood Elves to a reasonable degree. Talk to me about Beastmen. What do you think about Beastmen? What do you want to see?
So that all Minotaur army, that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Just lots of big beasties. I'm hoping, is there more than 3 Minotaur sculpts? So if they sell that pack of units in 3, or are we just going to see those same 3 Minotaurs, including the one to the left that looks like it's about to...
If I remember correctly, it's an okay kit. It is a plastic multi-part kit, so there is a level of... there's a degree of flexibility with it. I might recommend, if you want to do a Minotaur army, looking into some sort of 3D printing or third-party miniature solution. That might be the way to go if you want to run 15 to 20 Minotaurs. Perhaps.
I'm going to get very sick of that kit after a while, I think.
Yeah, after building it twice, I think, probably. That's...
I say as a man with 100 skeletons, but
yeah, there are some interesting limitations in that detachment, which you're going to find out about very soon. Like I say, I think probably in two or 3 days' time, which I think are going to put people off initially, but also I think 2 or 3 months after Beastmen releases, there's going to be a rebalance, and you're going to suddenly go, actually, I don't mind about this at all. So that's this is going to be a slow burner. When you see me being really hyped for Minotaurs and go, I actually don't think this is as good as he says it is. Just wait. There's going to be some interesting rebalancing. Avatars of War did gorgeous Minotaurs recently. Okay, let's have a look. I'll see if I can find those in the background. Anything else that you're super excited about?
So that the Bromo Sapien says, man, the muscles on those plastic Minotaurs are rough looking. If you want to see rough looking muscles, take a look close up at the Razor Gore kit that's painted on the Warhammer Community website. That feels like those Razor Gore. They should be undead with the amount of sinew and stuff you can see just on the model. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, Ed, but I had completely forgotten that the Jabba Scythe was a thing. It's like someone at Games Workshop had just said, what happens if we put wings and a tail on a Great Unclean? And
if it wasn't a resin miniature
and will never move, those wings will never lift it, but it does look like that.
If it wasn't a resin miniature, I'd be way more excited about it, but because it is, I was like, oh, this could be potentially a cheap way to do a great like a Nurgle giant spawn, but it's probably going to cost it a similar sort of
£1 million.
Yeah, and it's not very good, so yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold on that one, but we'll see. I don't want to doom and gloom too early, after all.
No, to be fair, what I do like as well from the Beastmen minis, I mean they've only been gone for 18 months, but the Gores, I think, just the basic core infantry, I think just holds up really well. I think they're just really cracking units, seeing them ranked up like that. There's so much character across those infantry models. I don't think there's no minis that look the same. They've all got different postures, poses, kind of different style weapons. Like they've not like just like copy and pasted minis across.
Yeah.
So I think that holds that really well. So those just the basic infantry in that battalion box, I think, just come out really well. They seem to have just lasted. I don't know how old that kit is. I know it's plastic, obviously, but I don't know when it was originally made. And I guess the same, probably just nipping back to Wood Elves, is for the Eternal Guard. I know that the Eternal Guard aren't core, are they? They're special rare, aren't they? But
the new Eternal Guard, the upgraded ones.
Yeah, the green ones on Games Workshop website. They I stick that out. I think they're one of the best kits they've brought back for the old world so far.
They were, if I remember correctly, they were printed in 8th edition. It was either 7th or 8th edition, so they're very modern as fantasy sculpts go.
Right, okay, yeah. I think you can tell that because they've managed to pull off a unit with Eternal Guards that are dynamic, as in there's a lot of movement going on, but still feel kind of well regimented. They don't feel like they're all just running off in different directions or they're all just going at different angles, different poses, but they haven't lost that sense of movement. And that is like they've got a sense of action, but it's still quite ordered, if you know what I mean. I think that's quite hard to pull off when you've got ranks and ranks of infantry, especially a force like the elves, which is supposed to have a bit more discipline going on. I know the wood elves are slightly less than high elves, but they're not sort of insane madmen or like the undead skeletons or anything like that. They're supposed to have a bit of regimentedness to them, but they've also given each individual mini some character in there as well, which is I think it's hard to pull off. So I think they're amazing. They're almost enough for me to get a Wood Elf army. If Cathay wasn't coming, I'd look at those and go, "Ooh, is there an Eternal Guard list I can run here?"
Yeah, very different to what you're playing at the moment. So that would be an interesting challenge for you to make it work.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that battalion and going, do I just buy this and make them all into the Tracing Woodsman? Because they're great sculpts for that.
Paint them blue.
Yeah, or like even still just earthy colours, but just run them with a dragon that has a high elf on it. It's pretty obvious, I think. I need to have a look at the kit to see how easily kit bashable it is, because I'm not sure if it was into the era of where the arms are like you start getting parts like halfway down the arm instead of just at the elbow. Or not the elbow, at the shoulder. If it's at the shoulder, you could probably kit bash them with the Glade Guard in the same box. And then you've also got potentially some models that you can use as sisters. There's some interesting models there. Yeah. Don't like how...
More Robot Wars content coming in saying he thinks the Gore minis are 22 years old, which I think, if that's true, the way they... have put those together and the way they've held up in that 22-year period, I think you'd look at those and go, they'd be right up there with any modern Games Workshop release. So if that's true, that's really cool. What hasn't aged well out of the I guess actually Wood Elves again is and given he's got a whole detachment Orion, I feel like probably could have had an Orion mini. He's got those two fucking honey badger things he's got with him as well.
I like Orion, but the dogs are aged.
Oh, they're dogs. I thought they were badgers.
They're ethereal hounds, Lewis. What are you talking about?
Ethereal honey badgers going straight for the gonads.
I mean, honey badger don't give a fuck. So, I'd rather have honey badgers, I think. I thank you both, Chris and Scott, who have both confirmed that it probably is at the shoulder. And some offers for some pictures on Friday. Appreciate that. The Glade Guard have torso and arms cast together. Bugger. It's all right, as long as the spare parts in there, like the whatchamacallums, the quivers on the back, that would probably do. Bromisapien adores the Wood Elf minis that are returning, just don't like how the army plays versus Trace and the High Elves. Yeah, that's fair. I think that's not unreasonable. I'm kind of more and more interested in putting together some Tracing Woodsman and whack him on the table. See how that goes. But yeah, we'll see. So we keep getting distracted. But Beastmen, loads of cool stuff coming. Definitely just the first wave, despite the fact that when I looked through it, I don't know if they've updated it now, it doesn't mention that it isn't the full thing. We know that we're getting a Praeton, which I'm pretty sure someone said in the comments has been announced on Warcom, so that's good. I'm not just accidentally leaking.
Yeah, it's in the not in the what do they call it, the almanac. It's in the actual. They talk about both Wood Elves and Beastmen in the same article, and it's just a random photo. It's got one word and a random photo halfway down.
Herdstone. That's funny. So, there's if you guys thought the wood elf L-shaped wood was a problem, just wait until you see the herdstone. There is no specific ruling on the dimensions of the herdstone, so you can do some bullshit with the basing, which hopefully is going to be FAQ'd out of WTC at the very least. But
that needs to be sorted, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It was announced back in April. Yeah, thank you, David. It was. Given that I've kind of just alluded to leaking, I guess here's a crumb. It's 165 points. It's not much of a crumb, but it's that's the points. Crescent Moon bunker time. Yeah, no, that's basically it. You can do more bullshit than that. You can just cut a small chunk out and put a unit, deploy a unit inside it, but make it so that it's not big enough for any single model to move through the gap. Yeah.
Yes, let's not be doing any of that. I don't want to have to be ruling on people's herdstones at events.
Matthew says the wood elf L-shaped wood, don't drag the rest of them down with your degeneracy. I can't take credit for it. It wasn't me that came up with it. I think it might have been Nicolas Boucher, long-time friend and has been on the channel a few times. Lovely chap. But potentially it's his fault that it exists. A 24-inch long herdstone with a bridge in the middle. There might be something stopping that, but I actually don't know. I'd need to see the release.
That would be really cool. That would look pretty impressive on the tabletop if you just play your whole game under your herdstone.
Charles says, would we get more wood elves? Kind of sad that we didn't get any new sculpt at all. The unicorn would be nice. I was hopeful after seeing the Brett one. I don't think there's anything on the cards.
Oh, did they not get one of the wizards at least? There's not a little new wizard?
No, there's the high elf on unicorn, which is coming out as made to order at the same time as the Beastmen.
Right.
I don't think there's a wood elf specific
the Beastmen got the bloke that can't see. And
yes.
Familiar, but yeah, I don't remember.
I actually don't think there's anything new coming back for Wood Elves, unfortunately. But
sorry, Wood Elf.
As has been alluded to, and I don't know this, I think this is just sort of the thinking. They have mentioned there are new journals, arcane journals coming. The current thought process there is it's going to be multiple armies getting, 2 armies shoved into one arcane journal. So you've got maybe a Beastman versus Wood Elves or something like that. So you get another army of infantry. And that's another opportunity for them to start bringing out new models as well if they want to do something along that.
Yeah. Yeah, because the lore of the Wood Elf and Beastmen Arcane Journal is very much them two fighting currently, isn't it? They have concurrent storylines in their books.
Well, the Beastmen are kind of the big bad of the current setting, which I didn't realise.
And high elves, aren't they?
They're just kind of everywhere. They are, if you think about the fantasy trope of, orcs are the sort of roaming terror, that just are the issue. I think it's Beastmen in the old world setting. I think they're just sort of everywhere. You're village was burned down. Was it Beastmen? Probably. It'd be nice to have them brought to the fore a little bit more.
Yeah, and they've always had that potential, haven't you? Because you've got to imagine living in a world where you've got effectively little city-states connected by roads through woods.
Yeah.
Whoever controls those woods can have a lot of power in that situation.
Yeah.
So it's always felt a bit odd that they weren't as front and centre as potentially they could have been. I know chaos is quite impressive and demons and that sort of stuff, but to see them come out swinging with Beastmen is good. And it has been there's been some foreshadowing, hasn't there? As you say, it's popped up in multiple arcane journals. It's kind of there, but they're not really they're not saying it up front, really, are they?
No.
They're not describing the Beastmen as a cohesive force or a cohesive threat to everything.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that's just, I don't know whether the arcane journals just feel a bit disconnected from each other, even though maybe there's someone at Games Workshop who's got some kind of storyline in mind that is going to get revealed.
I don't think they're necessarily set up as that sort of threat where they're, united under a single banner. I think it literally is just lots of roaming, marauding bands, basically. But just very populous throughout the old world.
Yeah. Although I guess it's hard to convey them as a kind of... Because the Games Workshop like to have an existential threat, don't they? They like to have that in all of their games. When you look at Sigmar, when you look at 40k, they've got the big bad, the thing that's going to end everything.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they are just kept as sort of just little individual war bands, not particularly joined up, just sort of raiding caravans and stuff, then they they could potentially do with tying together slightly. If that's what GameStop are trying to go for, they're trying to make the Beastmen the be all and end all, because they keep hammering home the point that Chaos is not really in ascendancy. Chaos is nothing at the moment. But actually, if the Beastmen are meant to be the big bad, then perhaps they do need to tie them together a bit. Unless I've missed a piece of the jigsaw puzzle somewhere, and there is some kind of narrative thread tying all this together that's just passed me by.
Who can say? Who can say? It could be any of the above. But, yeah, so exciting stuff there. We've had some more Beastman players turn up in the chat. Good to see Winslow. How are you doing, Paul? David says, do you know if the Herdstone blocks line of sight? Is it impassable terrain? So many variables to it. So I don't know 100%. So we're going to have to wait and see. But I don't think it blocks line of sight, but I do think it's impassable. I think that's probably how they've set that one up. It would just make sense. So that's what I would expect there anyway. But yeah, some cool bits and pieces. Hasselflavor says Beastmen and Wood Elves are natural enemies like Beastmen and the Empire, Beastmen and Bretonia, and Beastmen and Orcs, and Beastmen and Vampires, and Beastmen and Beastmen. Damn Beastmen. They ruined the old world. Yeah, it's very good.
This is why we have no trees left.
Yeah, well, yeah. You coming from the environmental agency got getting in there and having a word.
I also think, on a final Beastman model point, the Gorgon with the 4 arms doing the Power Rangers pose. Do you think the Power Rangers pose was an intentional design decision or a happy accident?
I think it might have been something to do with limitations of sculpting at the time, more than anything else. We'll see. Paul says, any thoughts on...
And do you think the Cygor version, where he's throwing the rock, and he has his mouth open with a massive tongue sticking out, do you think every time he throws the rock, he sticks his tongue out?
Yeah, he's got to taste the wind. He's blind, isn't he?
He's getting a feel for the wind direction.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I think he's actually blind, but can only see in like a ghost sight, which is why he's got such a terrible ballistic skill of 1. Which doesn't actually matter, because it's only if you're firing indirectly your ballistic skill matters, and then only sometimes, given that he's a stone thrower. But yeah, Paul says, any thoughts on ghostly looking Beastmen? I don't know anything about that in terms of rules wise, but if you're asking in terms of would that be a cool army to collect, sure.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
More ghosts for the Vampire Counts train, please.
Yeah, absolutely. That would make sense. Vampire Counts don't exist, remember? They're a legacy faction. They're not real. Vampire Counts can't hurt you. That's me talking to me every time I go to a tournament. They're not real. They can't hurt you. Also, Tomb Kings. Fuck, Tomb Kings are real. And Bretonians. Ugh. I need direction. The WTC pack is getting some pretty major changes. We'll not talk about it here because it's a draft and we're going to see some changes. But it's looking pretty wild in terms of what I was expecting, and what we've been playing on the online event. So we'll have to see how that goes. Maybe I'll have to do a video talking about that at some point down the line. But
are they bringing in significant rules changes then for...
Well, it's more there's going to be like scoring differences, like some objective scoring and stuff. So we'll have to see how it ends up. But it's going to be very different. Yeah. There was going to be a reason that I brought that up, and I've completely forgotten.
I've put an objective mission in the July Saffron Slam pack.
Yeah.
Just one where you have one objective in your deployment zone, one in the middle, one in your opponent's deployment zone, where you score a certain number of points each turn for holding an objective, and it can only be held by infantry.
Yeah.
Just to see how that plays. Does it play well? Does it? Because you kind of want to score points that it makes a difference, but not so many points that it changes the game.
Yeah.
So I'll be interested to see when they release that pack, what objective missions they're putting in and how they're playing them. Because I think there's something in there that's cool.
Yeah.
Just gives you something else to think about. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah. No, sorry, that's brought it to mind. So because WTC is going to be so different from the singles events that are being run here in the UK, I don't have to play the army that I'm going to take to Mela in September. In terms of what I'm going to play if I go to any singles tournaments, we are looking at doing more in-team stuff So I may actually find that I don't have time to do many individual tournaments, but I kind of need some inspiration. I don't know what I want to play in terms of singles. I have mentioned that my goal is, and it's probably mostly going to come in after Mela, although that only leaves me 3 months. My goal is to win 4 events on 4 different armies for my, to be my what gets me into Masters for the end of the year competition. So I need to think about what I want to play for the other 2 armies. I haven't quite nailed it down.
What do you think is your, if you had to say, what was your kind of weakness when you're playing Old World? What are you not good at, or not as good as you could be? And
I love too much.
Is there a faction?
I work too hard.
I'm a perfectionist.
yeah. The classic job interview. What are your weaknesses? Oh, I just do too much work. I'm always there. I'm not sure. Have I considered Beastmen? That would be cool. That'd be cool. Aguma says Empire take a challenge. Yeah, potentially. I don't know. So the 3 armies that I've won with are 3 of the 4 dragon armies. So that's, I'm kind of, while I am flirting with differences, it is still a very similar play style. So that has made it easier for me to win with the variety.
You've nailed down dragons. We've pretty got that under lock.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be harder and harder to win with dragons in the current state of the game. So maybe something that's not dragons would be cool. I don't know.
Something infantry based.
Something infantry based. Yeah, I mean, if you're saying that, it's going to be. It's going to be undead, isn't it? Yeah. Like, I guess vampire counts. I think I could go to an event this weekend if someone loaned me a vampire count army and win that event. Which is...
I'm tempted to post you a vampire count army.
No. The one that I want to play, not the one with, Actually, Blood Knights are fine, but I'd want to run like the Mortis Engine, Double Banshee, play the classic, all the hits.
The Mortis Engine and 2 Banshees in my list.
In that case, maybe. I'm not booked in for an event this weekend, unfortunately, but we'll see. David said, without breaking the NDA, based on rumours, which new Beastman unit are you the most excited for? Here's the fun thing. I'm not on an NDA, because Games Workshop don't send me shit, and that's fine. And I don't think they will, because they seem to have scaled back their NDA program because of all the leaks.
It appears to be working, does it?
No, I will say, I haven't at any point been the first person to do like a full army reveal, leak, anything like that. So I'm not the problem, but I am making sure that I'm getting my stuff out pretty quickly after the fact. So yeah, I'm not going to break an NDA because I'm not on one. I think Minotaurs, I'm super hyped for the Minotaur detachment. I think that's really fun. I think there's a lot of stuff in there. The primal lore of magic as well, which mostly comes in the non-Minotaur detachment. As you'd expect, there'll be an item to let you take it outside of there. I think that's really fun. I'm going to play around with that and potentially combo the Praeton with it, if that's enough to whet your appetite.
Ooh.
Yes, indeed.
Let's go.
And then there's loads of people in chat being like, play Empire or Dwarf Slayers or Centaurs.
Dwarf Slayers.
I'm realistically,
real uphill
I'm only going to have 3 months to get 2 event wins in, and I try to go to 1 event a month. So I kind of need to take good armies if I'm doing the, or it might have to be a challenge that I push on to next year, just because it's more important to make sure I'm prepared for international play than, stroking my own ego, as funny as that would be. And speaking of stroking my own ego, we should move on to the fact that I have launched coaching. So if you are interested in coaching, there is a Patreon link down in the description. I did put a video out talking about what it is. I then got told off by one of my coaching students, Nick, who said you don't have to justify the value. Like it's very reasonably valued for, if you break it down compared to what other people do. So thank you, Nick. I appreciate your words of what's the word I'm looking for? Not appreciation. When someone validates you, I appreciate your words of validation. I'm just so British that I'm like, I'm trying to charge money for something. Oh God, that's weird. But a couple of the people that I have been talking to have been from various parts of Europe, and I will say their frank attitudes towards money have been refreshing as a British man who's like, can I charge you this for my time? And they're like, yes, you've broken it down. This sounds very reasonable. We will pay you the money. It's like, oh, okay, great. It's just us over here that's weird about it, I guess.
Yeah, it's a very British thing, I think, that, isn't it? Just don't talk about money. Don't talk about money.
Yeah, it's built into us. It's somehow shameful to talk about money, even when you've got a service that you're charging for. But yeah, no, it's already picked up a few people, which is great, and looking forward to doing it. I've had a couple of coaching sessions now that I've really enjoyed doing, which is a lot of fun. I'm actually doing 3 calls tomorrow, although a couple of them are shorter ones, so that's, it's very manageable. But yeah, so currently firmly in the camp of doing a little bit of coaching around my other things that I'm doing, but hopefully we get to a point where I can just transition to doing full-time coaching, because that'd be fun. A lot of I've enjoyed doing it. Well, there are upsides and downsides. There are definitely upsides, but then you also have to look at all of the tax implications on your own, and the working hours are not good, because if you want to sell coaching to people, those people probably have jobs, and if they have jobs, they probably want to talk to you on in the evening. Do you know how many evenings there are on a month? When you factor in the fact that I stream 2 evenings a week, a lot less than you might have thought. So that's something to work around. But some people are available during the day, so I've got a couple of sessions booked in during the daytime tomorrow, which will be cool.
And I guess you've got time zones to think about as well, because as we've demonstrated this evening, we are now an international podcast.
Absolutely.
Hello to all of our Chinese listeners once Joe translates this. Yes, that means you could do things in different time zones where it's actually convenient time in the UK.
Yeah, that's true.
Or 3 a.m.
I probably need to pick up loads of Australian viewers. Well, I've got plenty of Australian viewers. I need to pick up loads of Australians who want coaching. That's probably the way to do it. And then with the conversion rate, the way that Games Workshop does their plastic models and just puts a 60% Australian tax on as well, just for the shipping, I'd probably not even... You might not even break a sweat compared to the cost of actually buying models for the Australian market. Hey, Nick's here. Thanks, Nick. Good to have you. Good to have you. So, yeah, that's, I think, all of the shilling out of the way. We've talked about the Open Order Summer Sesh, which is being run not by me, but for my channel members. We've talked about the coaching very briefly. There is a video, there is a link, all of that good stuff. If you're interested, check it out. And, yeah. Anything else that we want to wrap up on? I think we had a couple of podcast questions.
Yeah, we got some podcast questions. I was going to say as well, if you are a channel member, do remember that you don't pay full price for your Saffron Slam tickets. Next event, 26th, 27th of July. Should be a really good weekend, and if you'd like to come along and you are a channel member, please just message me and don't buy it off BCP, so you don't buy full price. I am selling 1-day and 2-day tickets. I thought, sod it, I'll just sell 1-day tickets from day one as well, and just hopefully manage who wants to come Saturday and who wants to come Sunday. So yeah, if you can't make the full weekend, just do come along anyway, and we'll make it work. Nick did it at the last event, came for 2 games on Saturday, and I was able then to swap him on BCP with other people, so it's all good. So I've worked out how to do it. So yeah, please do come along. Be an amazing weekend, and it'll be lovely to welcome you all.
Fantastic.
Podcast questions.
Normally I'd read them out, but the way that I'm doing the streaming, I do rely on having Discord open on a very specific page. So would you mind navigating to the Discord section yourself, so I don't have to pull up my phone?
Yes.
Although I think that's how you're doing
questions.
it. Yeah.
Someone has chucked other in. I guess anyone else that wants to ask any questions, stick them in the chat. We'll do the members' questions first. Right, so first one is more Beastmen rumours, more Robot Wars content, I think. The same people?
Yeah.
At Warhammer World, my friend ended up playing against Orcs and Goblins 4 times out of 5. That's
pretty rough.
Brutal. On the drive back home, he was able to write a really solid army list for the Orcs and Goblins and was talking like a faction expert. So, the question is, how much do you value playing against an army next to playing with it in the process of getting good?
I really like playing both a variety of armies and against a variety of armies. I think there are 2 ways to approach getting good at a faction, and the first is playing that faction only and playing games into every other faction so we understand how the 2 factions interact. That's fine, but it's a little harder to set up because you've got to have opponents who play all of the factions, and that can be a downside if you go to a tournament and you haven't played against them. Or if you are a magpie like myself and you see something shiny and you immediately jump to a new army because I want to play this, which is perfect for someone who has a channel. That way you learn the ins and outs of the faction when you play it, and you might not even have played the matchup, but I know how a dragon army plays. I know how undead play because I've played as them, I've played against them. So even if I don't necessarily have, I've never played wood elves into, I don't know, vampire counts before, I can understand how the two armies interact, and I can look for the ways that I'm going to leverage the strength of the wood elves while minimizing their weaknesses into the vampire counts. Not a great example, because wood elves really struggle into undead, especially now that they've lost their Pillar of Fire bullshit ability. But yeah, that's the general premise.
Yes. I think it's important to keep in mind that although each faction is different and very unique, and Games has done actually quite a good job of making each faction feel quite sort of have its own special shiny stuff, fundamentally you can probably break most armies down to doing a certain group of things. Okay, yes. You might not know the individual rule or how the individual rule works, but fundamentally it's going to do one of 3 or 4 different things. And if you can just kind of keep that in mind, as you say, you can apply a strategy that has worked against High Elf with Dragon and some fast cavalry against Warriors of Chaos with 2 dragons and some fast cavalry.
Sure.
That sort of, you can just kind of apply that methodology across. But I mean, there's definitely value in getting reps against a particular faction to really start to learn it inside and out. Because actually, if you come up against it in the future, that lived experience is going to be so much more vital than theoretical experience when you need to start making, potentially, if you're in a close game, some really kind of life or death decisions through the course of the game, where actually your understanding of exactly how a fanatic works is quite important, in the Orcs and Goblins example. So it's the sort of thing where I don't think you can fully ever replace reps into each individual faction, but you can mitigate it somewhat by having an understanding of the broad concepts and what each army roughly does, and hopefully then your opponent gives you that sort of rundown at the start of the game, and you can just go, oh, actually, okay, that dragon's a bit faster than another one, or that one has slightly more toughness and things like that, so you can just kind of play against those things.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. All right. Were there any other questions in there?
Yes, we've got 4 questions in total. So Winslow's up next. This is one aimed at you. What has surprised you in playing in the WTC from international teams? Any builds you've been surprised by, either because you underestimated them or because the opposing team clearly has? For example, how was it playing against the US team, who, as a matter of public record, are the most charming of all WTC players?
So in terms of lists, the first one is I played my list. So the way I came to my list decision making was I've got a couple of high elf players on the team who are good and have had good results, and they really rate the sisters, and I kind of caved to their input and met them halfway, and I put together a list that was half what I wanted to do and half what they like. And it turns out that bastardized list is bad. And I did play a number of practice games with it, but I played it into moderately skilled players, I would say. And I did okay with it. I did well with it. I felt like I had a good handle on the strengths. And then I played into international players, and it's gone very poorly. And I'm very unhappy with the list, and just overall don't feel like I've been having a good time in the online tournament, to the point where I've said to my captain, just throw me into the bus. Like, I'm not having good results with this. You may as well just use me to get a better pairing elsewhere, which is, super reasonable to do. So, whose list have I been surprised by? Mine. Mine is bad, and I'm unhappy about it. And the problem is, it's such a long event. Online events suck if you get the wrong list. So you've got to play it for months. Yeah, we're into matchup 5 out of 6, so I've only got another 15 days of this torture to think about. But no, I don't love that. In terms of
there's sorry, I was going to say there's different metas in other parts of the world, I suppose, isn't there? We see it in 40k with the way things different change, but I think you probably, how they play in France or how they play in Australia might be slightly different to how they play in the UK, and you'll obviously play the vast majority of your in-person games against people that play within the UK meta. So it's going to be really interesting in a WCC, and I don't know whether you can get this online or not, but when you actually go to the actual event, how certain things are going to play out, how different rules interactions are interpreted by different TOs in different parts of the world compared to here, and all that sort of stuff. That's going to be really interesting to see. Yeah, absolutely. And it's
what part of the reason I was really pleased that I did well at your event actually is because I was just having a terrible time, feeling bad about my play, and then I was like, oh, I won an event in the middle of having an absolute Western online. I'm still okay. I'm not terrible. I'm not washed. I just need to, sort some things out. In person is the best. Yeah, I do like in person, but Warhol is a very good second place for that. I do like Warhol.
Yeah, and I guess as well, you've got to bear in mind that there's a big difference between singles play and teams play.
Oh, absolutely,
Your objectives are totally different in both those sort of situations. What you're trying to achieve out of the game is very different in a teams format than it is in a singles format. In a singles format, you just need to win, get across the line. Whereas in a teams format, you're performing a particular role for a team, meaning you need to aim for a particular score or a particular margin. So that makes how you play very different. So and obviously again, international players, you're going to be playing the best, or in theory, some of the best players in every single country.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which at just at any given event, you're not going to experience that until the latter part of a tournament.
Usually, sometimes you just get the run where you're like, oh, I've played against all the good people here. But yes, that is correct. A lot of the time, you don't have to play into good players until sort of day 2 or maybe like game 3. So you're absolutely correct with that one. Yeah, perfect. What was the third question?
Question 3 from Jordan. What's your order at Subway?
Do you ever go to Subway? Oh, go ahead.
We have a Subway in Saffron Walden. They don't make this anymore. Actually, last time I checked, they don't make it anymore. It's the meatless meatball Mariana. So it's some of that fake meat stuff, which I know is pretty shocking, but I do quite like it. And loads of veg, all the salady bits, chuck it in. Meatless meatball Mariana, Italian herbs and cheese, job done.
That sounds good. So I have I'm currently in a relationship with a vegan. I've dated vegans before. I eat a lot of vegetables. I'm usually not a big fan of imitation meat, but the place that does get it right, or the thing that people do get right, is anywhere where the texture isn't important. I find that imitation meat either gets the taste right or the texture right, but when you've got something like a meatball where there isn't really a texture other than just sort of like mushed meat together, they kind of nail it, and that's where I'm most impressed. Sausages as well can be pretty good. There's a lot of good stuff there.
No one's yet nailed the bacon.
No, that's correct. So my partner, who hasn't had bacon for years, got some imitation bacon. It must have been like 3 or 4 years ago, and had it. And was like, oh wow, this is incredible. It tastes just like bacon. I was like, oh cool. Interested to try that out. It tasted nothing like bacon. It tasted nice, but it didn't taste like bacon. So that was a fun.
Though I think part of the bacon is the wider experience around the bacon, isn't it? It's the smell of it, and it's the fact that you're probably hungover when you're eating it. That sort of thing. That's where bacon comes into its own, which I don't think the veggie one can ever replicate.
As someone who doesn't really drink but does enjoy bacon, do I enjoy it less because I'm not hungover?
I don't know. I feel because I've been a vegetarian for 5 years now, so it's been a while. But I do remember having it. It was always a Sunday morning after a big night out that we'd have it at uni and things like that. So I've always associated it with very good moments. So that kind of is the emotional attachment to bacon that I think forms an important part of the British psyche, at least.
Yeah, there's multiple comments in chat talking about how poor the ingredients are at Subway, and I think that's a really smart marketing campaign from Subway to make people stop talking about Jared Fogle. They're kind of like, we need a way to stop people talking about the fact that our sponsor was a nonce. So what are we going to do? We're going to make the ingredients really poor quality. Anyway, moving on from that, because that's probably, in retrospect, maybe not a topic for the podcast.
Final question.
No. My Subway order. I really like an Italian BMT, toasted with salad in there, and then I've forgotten which sauce I like. So on the rare occasion that I go, I get the wrong sauce and it doesn't taste right. I think it's maybe like the sort of like hickory barbecue or something. But yeah, Italian BMT on the herby Italian bread is my go-to for Subway.
Solid. Right, yes, cool. Final question. More Beastmen Rumours is back. I haven't read this one yet. After a few of us in this channel have come second at events recently, can you recommend a better channel so we can place first instead?
I think you're in the perfect place. So if I was to very quickly just navigate to my page on Old World Rankings, not a sponsor of the channel, just a friend, they're a fantastic place. And if I look at my achievements, I have got 2 runner-ups. I've got 2 second places. I've got a 3rd place as well. What's that? 3 tournament winners. I've won 3 tournaments. Now, I understand that you specifically, and this is not a slight against Scots people, this is you specifically, struggle to count past 1. So my 3 tournament wins is above my 2 second places. So this is a good place to go, especially for coaching if you want to learn how to win at events. And before I get another comment from someone who doesn't understand banter in general, Callum and I have talked quite a lot. I like Callum. This is within the bounds of acceptable things to say to each other in the relationship that we have formed over the time we have been talking. Because I
think Callum is a complete knob.
They don't ever talk. Like, that's just... Yeah, I got a really weird comment where someone was like, I'm never watching you again. I can't believe you'd say this to someone who's obviously, like, watched a lot of your videos. And I watched I skimmed back through. I couldn't find what they were talking about, but I assume it was something along those lines. Just giving Callum shit, basically. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Hey! Thank you, Callum. You're a coach now. It's how we do that matters now.
It's how we do that matters now.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's have a quick look at your rankings. Where are you in the UK? This is not at all important for the podcast. This is literally just, you've come into my eyesight with, your little bit of banter. I'm like, hold on, sir. How dare you? How dare you? So you've got... Oh, you haven't got... You can't even make second place results. That's rough. We have got a tournament win in there, which was a 1 day with Dark Elves. 2-0-1. Anyone can win a 1 day. And then we've got a couple.
I worked really hard for mine.
Then we've got a couple of 3rd place results in there as well. So yeah, Callum, if you want some coaching, we can probably get you from 3rd to 2nd.
If you can handle the pressure.
Jordan says, am I above or below Winslow? It's hard to say because that's not how, like, the rankings, there's no international rank. Oh, is there a global overview? Is there a Masters rank? No, there's no global overview. It'd be good to see. But I tell you what, I can have a look at the points. Let's see how Winslow's doing at tournaments. What are we seeing here? Have you got...
points.
Oh, there's no... Oh, there is a button. Okay, so Winslow... Off the top of my head...
Ed is throwing some shade in the chat.
No!
How many tournament wins did you get at your mates' tournaments? And how many in competitive environments? I think we're both getting savage there.
Wow, that's rough. No, I have one.
Saffron Slam's catching strays with that comment.
I have one outside of the Saffron Slam, and also the last win that I got at the Saffron Slam, I faced, what was it, like 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 7th or something. I did the gamut of facing basically all the difficult lists there. Oh, Jordan says it was aimed at Callum because Callum is sure Winslow's copying him. Very good, very good. Winslow's had 2 second places at 2 day events. As such, I declare myself the closest order. Very good, Winslow. Very good. This is... Sorry, we've kind of just sidetracked. This is an insight to what the VIP channel in the Discord looks like. It's just everyone that I've been interacting with are all very active in there, hence the forwards backwards banter. But yeah,
I accept your apology, Edward, in the chat. He didn't anticipate catching the Saffron Slam in the crossfire of his shots at you.
I'm gonna put you on blast, Edward Moores, whose real name comes up on YouTube. When you message me directly, you're really nice. Wouldn't sucks to be you. I'm not gonna leak DMs, but you're always very friendly and reasonable. Suck on that.
Sit down.
Sit down, yeah. Acting like a hard boy, but in reality, you're just friendly. I've gone off the rails. I think this is probably about the end of the episode. I don't think we've got much else